Hello, welcome to the podcast of Startup Recruitment Failures. I'm Indra, founder and CEO of JobRely. We're building artificial intelligence for outbound recruitment. And today my guest is Joao Marques, founder and CEO at Oscar. Joao, could you please introduce yourself and your company?
Hi, thank you so much for the invite. I'm very glad to be here. So, my name is João. I'm the founder and CEO of Oscar. We are an on demand app for home services like cleaning, repair, and laundry. And yeah, we are operating right now in Portugal and trying to expand to other cities across Europe.
Great. So thank you for participating here today. And maybe we could start firstly with your personal experience in recruitment.
Sure. I think probably it's best better to start how I was recruited, right? I think that's how it all started. So basically I was studying computer science at college, and I was looking I heard about the startup ecosystem in college. Like our dream was like to do websites, and dreaming a bit like how could it be like to have investors and to launch something and do it something by yourself.
So you got inspired by all these stories.
Yeah, but it was very, very a dream in the beginning. Like I thought that like raising or finding an investor would be very, very hard, or launching a product would be extremely complex. But I think it's simpler than people think. Like
Okay.
I think the most important thing is that if you can prove that people are using the stuff that you are doing, it's a huge step into success, I would say. So at the time, I was, doing a lot of stuff around websites and web apps, but I felt that I really needed some practical experience. So I needed to get in touch with the real world, and I was not able to do that in college. Especially my course was very theoric. Like we didn't have contact with the real world. It was really about teaching you the fundamentals of engineering and not really learning how to be a developer to make things happen. And at the time, I start like shooting emails everywhere to every company, especially startups, trying to see if I could be helping some of them. So I remember that, and of course, like being in the tech world, it's super easy to get a job as a developer, even if you didn't finish your course. Like a lot of my friends were working while studying at the same time. So I think it's a plus in this industry. So it was very easy to find a job in a consultant company, And I remember going to the job interview, and it was super easy. And I was really nervous because it was my first interview, as you can imagine. But I remember leaving the building with a yes, which was great. It was actually my first interview, but it felt like I'm not that good. So how was it so easy, And I started to become a little suspicious. Like, okay, maybe these guys didn't look further into what I was doing. That it was like the most important thing for me, like the side projects that I was doing, like
Yeah.
small websites and stuff that I was launching, and I was very proud of that. And
And they didn't have a look at it at all.
no, they didn't, because
They just needed a developer.
yeah, they were like, probably I was like they were hiring like 30 guys a week. I don't know,
Okay.
so it's just a number there.
So nothing very special. You
Yeah.
get a yes, but
Yeah,
like a natural one.
yeah, I think it's, sometimes when you are hiring in bulk, you don't have the time to go into and to look into the details like we do in the startups. So I remember leaving the building and thinking like, oh, it didn't felt very natural. Like I really, and at the time, I really liked, and I still do, to be like the dumbest guy in the room. I think that's where you if you put yourself in that place, you can learn a lot.
I agree. It's the best start in the
Yeah,
career.
and once I had that job confirmed, and it was probably a Wednesday, Thursday, and I was supposed to start on Monday. I remember once I already have this opportunity, let me check if I can get something better. And I remember the startup stories and so on. So I was just start like sending emails to startups, seeing if they were looking for someone. Some of them didn't reply, but I managed to find an ad about a tech company. They were doing some great stuff with AI and marketing at the time. The company is called Leadseye.
Mhm.
And I just saw a job opportunity. They were looking for, I think, 3 to 5 years of experience for probably a lead developer or some role like that.
Okay.
And I
So
was,
really something better than
yeah,
you had.
yeah, I had like -1 experience. So,
Yeah.
but I was really pumped up because I already had that job interview, and I thought like I'm the probably
Mhm.
I'm the smartest guy in my class, so it's gonna be easy as well.
Mhm.
So I ended up like sending an email saying, "Oh, I think I have what it takes. I'm gonna attach my CV to schedule a meeting with you." And I
Mhm.
sent the email actually because it was a startup that was starting. The email, the interviewer was the CEO.
Okay.
So I send the email, and the guy replies me like 10 minutes after saying, "Okay, thank you, but where's the CV? Because I forgot to attach the
Mhm.
CV." You know when you are sending like 20
Yeah.
emails
Yeah.
in 1 hour and you forget stuff. And I think that was very important because it was of course very it was very lucky for me because I was able then to speak directly with the CEO and
Mhm.
change first impressions. I think it matters a lot. So
Mhm.
I ended up like sending the CV, like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I just forgot. Let's go." And he thought I don't know. He thought it was funny, and we scheduled a call
Mhm.
with the CTO. So it was the CEO and the CTO and me. And like in the first 10 minutes of the call, I realized that this is another level. This is not the same kind of questions that they were asking me in the other job interview. It was
Mhm.
very much deep database questions, backend questions, super specific. Like I felt like the dumbest guy in the room.
Mhm.
And in the other interview, I felt the opposite.
Mhm.
So, like, I realized that in the first 10 to 15 minutes of that interview that I was not getting the job, It was
Mhm.
impossible. So, I was very far from what they wanted. But so I thought like, okay, I'm gonna use this to learn a bit. So somehow the interview shifted to a lesson
Mhm.
where I
Mhm.
was just making questions to the CTO, but how this works, and what about the technology? So you guys are using this. Should I use that in my project as well? Blah, blah, blah. And yeah, the CTO basically said, okay, so yeah, you don't have what it takes, but let's keep in touch, and
Mhm.
maybe in the future we can hire you.
Mhm.
And at the time, the CEO actually he said like, "Oh, I'm gonna intercede here. Like I'm gonna." So I don't. He said basically, "I don't usually
Mhm.
do this," but it said to the CTO, "Do you think we can test with Joao, like trying to test if he can learn quick, and
Mhm.
if probably can onboard the company right now? What do you think?" And I said like, "Yeah, of course. Like let me just give me a chance, and I will be there for a month for free, and I will prove that I can learn fast."
Okay.
And
That's
yeah, and I
nice. A
started
great
on.
challenge.
Yeah, it was amazing, and I started on Monday. So I
Okay.
have to say to the other company that I was not starting there,
Mhm.
and I think it was really the beginning for me, the real beginning, because once I was working in a startup. Of course, that at the time I was working like weekends and so on because I was so
Mhm.
far from what it takes to be in that position. But I managed to stay there, and I think that I was a plus for the company.
Mhm.
And yeah, it was important because I started getting in touch with the startup ecosystem. I remember seeing like flyers from investors at the office, because it was like a cohort, not a cohort, but like a hub of several
Mhm.
startups. I remember seeing in a meeting a flyer from the investors trying to find startups, and I thought like, but shouldn't be like the opposite. I remember thinking like, oh, probably investors are more desperate to find startups, and startups are
Mhm.
desperate to find investors. And at the time, and the job that we were doing at Leadseye was really amazing, and the CEO was really good at fundraising, and we were able to raise almost €1 million without a product. So
Mhm.
investors believed in us to give us one. I think it was 700 or 1 million to build a product.
Mhm.
So for me, it was really very important to get to know how things work in the startup world.
Mhm.
And from
But the
yeah.
impression leads I made, and you decided to choose them over that consulting company, was it personal because they were more interested in you than the big consulting corporation? Or was it that you realized that they are really more professional somehow and like giving you more deep technical questions?
So I think that they were not like the recruitment process was not very professional at the time. Of course, right now there are more than 50 people, so it's super
Hmm.
professional, but at the time we're like 3 or 4 people, so it was very manual and very organic. So
Hmm.
it was not a process that was very professional. And I don't think that probably the other consulting company, they were more interested in hiring me
Hmm.
than the startup. But
Yeah.
the startup, they were more interested in get to know me. And I think that what I really liked was the question. You know, I
Hmm.
was speaking with a guy that had like 20 years of experience. So I was speaking with a developer, with an engineer, instead of in the consulting company that I was speaking with a HR representative that
Okay.
doesn't know anything about code. And
Hmm.
when you are a developer, that's something that you really value, like
Hmm.
speaking technical specifics with someone.
Yeah,
That's
I
very
totally
important.
agree. I totally agree. That's why we at Job Rely ask hiring managers to be as much involved in the recruitment process as they can. And especially, we notice that if CEOs go and participate in the first, even a very short call with a potential candidate, it gives a lot of value, right? Because HR
Yeah.
person cannot really explain everything what is happening there, right? And what kind of the challenges could be awaiting.
Yeah, because I think when you are interviewed by someone that has a more technical track record,
Hmm.
usually the interview will be about knowledge, about some programming language, some technique specifics, and so on. And when we are speaking with someone that is like an HR manager or a project manager, they will tell you about like how it's going to be your future in the company. Oh, you're gonna start as a developer, but 6 months from that you can move and be a project manager and so on.
Hmm.
So it's not that one is better than the other, but there in terms of the guy or the people that is being interviewed, it's really two different types of people. So it's one that really wants to learn, and
Hmm.
that's the priority, and the other one that just wants to have a better role, to have some career. So at the time I was not interested in that. That was
Hmm.
not the thing that worried me. What really worried me was that, oh, there are people that know more about programming than me,
Hmm.
so I want to be like them. And
Hmm.
I think that way you can attract like people that are more focused on knowledge than on,
Yeah.
than not so interested about the career and where you're
Or
going to
the
go.
titles.
Yeah, or the
Yeah.
titles, right?
Okay. Okay. And how come so you finished computer science and now you are in the managerial position as a CEO? Why did this happen? What was your motivation and what was the way into this? Because you needed to learn a lot of things about business and management and etc. Right?
Yeah, I actually ended up like not finish the computer science.
Hmm.
So because I started working at that company, Leadseye, and
Hmm.
then once I thought that I was learning, at least I knew the basics, like probably 1 2 years after that,
Hmm.
I immediately start thinking about how can I launch a startup. So I was
Okay.
very aware.
Very focused.
Yeah, and I was very aware like which problems can I identify in order to solve it. I remember that, and I still do that a lot. Like I love to use the subway like every day,
Hmm.
and sometimes I'm looking like what people are doing in their mobiles, in their
Hmm.
phones.
Okay.
Uh,
Pretty sneaky.
yeah, it's sneaky, but I don't do that much.
I'm
But
just kidding.
no, but that's true. But like if someone is on WhatsApp, I'm not reading the
Yeah, I
conversation, but
believe.
it's funny to see what people do, which websites they visit. So
Hmm.
it was very 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 interesting that. So I was very aware which problems can I solve,
Hmm.
and at the time because it was my first job, I was getting paid for the first time, and I moved to a house, so I rented a place for the first time with my girlfriend,
Hmm.
and we needed to hire an handyman.
Hmm.
And I remember taking a day off, which for me was very, very important because I really loved to work there. So day off was not a cool thing for me,
Hmm.
to stay home because I had scheduled a service with the handyman,
Hmm.
and he didn't show up.
Okay.
And at the time, you already had like food delivery apps and ride-hailing apps, and stuff was really working very, very well. Like, you get food in 10 minutes, get a ride in five. So
Mhm.
it was amazing, and I was really passionate about that, about businesses that use technology in order to move things around the city. I don't
Mhm.
know why, but it was something that I really love. So once I found out that it was a problem to solve regarding hiring a handyman, because all the marketplaces that you had, like Thumbtack and Angie's List, their job is really just to put you in touch with your provider. And
Mhm.
that's not the hardest part. The hardest part is to manage the job,
Yeah.
making sure that the guy arrives at time, that you're gonna pay a fair price, and that you know how much you're gonna pay for hiring him,
Mhm.
stuff like that. So I thought that would be, for me. It was very obvious that it should have someone, like if I can order food with a seamless experience, and it's not a problem as big as hiring a handyman.
Mhm.
I thought that it should be having someone had developed something like that, but
Mhm.
not. So once I started doing market research, I found out that it was something that was missing.
Okay.
And at the time, I spoke with the CEO, my boss, and I said, like, look, I have this idea. I did some market research. I think that this is really something. And I remember that at the time I was probably thinking about ideas. Like every week, I was telling him, like, oh, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And actually, none of those ideas are really good.
Mhm.
But he ended up like giving me really structured and good feedback. And once I brought that idea, I remember him stopping and saying, like, "Well, I think you are up to something."
Finally.
Yeah. So I said, "Look, I'm gonna try it. What do you think? I'm gonna find someone for my job. I'm gonna quit, and I'm gonna start this." And I invite him. I invited him as an advisor,
Mhm.
actually as a non-executive co-founder in the beginning.
That
And
is awesome.
yeah, it was awesome because he said, like, "Look, and you can go for it, and if it didn't work, if it doesn't work, you can always come back to your
Mhm.
position. So it's gonna be okay." Yeah, and it was amazing. Yeah, I think it couldn't be better than that, you know?
Okay, that's a very
Yeah.
successful and very like strong in terms of the relationship between the
Yeah.
employer and employee story. So very glad to hear about that. And so now you have your startup already, and you are recruiting, of course, people. How is it going?
We launched like 2 years ago, and we have been like growing at a very fast pace.
Hmm.
So I think that in the beginning, I didn't give the importance about hiring that it deserves.
Hmm.
So I think that we are a bit learning with our mistakes. We don't have yet a good solution for hiring. So we are trying and see how it goes, to be honest.
Hmm.
For example, like we don't work remotely, or everyone is at the office,
Okay.
and that's something that we just be we are very transparent in the interview. Look, it's not that we don't trust people, like we don't need to see you working every day
Hmm.
with my own eyes, but the truth is that we are growing at a very fast pace, and we don't have very structured processes yet, because being remote is not just sending people home and using Slack. It's more than that.
Yeah.
You need to be able to have processes to work
Yeah,
in a synchronous way, and we
definitely.
don't have that, and right now we don't have the time to do that.
Hmm.
So it's just something that we really require. Like, people sometimes move city to Lisbon in order to be able to work at Oscar, and that's something that we value a lot. Of course,
Hmm.
that we give a lot of perks for people being at the office, like besides meal allowances and stuff, we offer meals every day at the office. So we
Okay.
try to compensate that.
To make it fun
Yeah,
place to be at.
yeah,
Okay, great.
and
And
yeah,
so you mentioned you made a few mistakes. What were these recruitment mistakes you had?
I don't know, like sometimes we just hire because we really need someone, like the orders keep growing and growing, and we just need someone, especially for customer support. And we
Hmm.
end up hiring more because by recommendation,
Yeah,
and
that's the
sometimes it
best.
works, sometimes it doesn't work.
Hmm.
But recommendation for us in the beginning is very important, because we don't have to do like a lot of background check, a lot of due diligence. We can just trust people, and
Hmm.
that in the startup in the beginning, since things are not very structured, you really need to trust people.
Hmm.
I think that especially in the beginning, some of our failures, it happened because people didn't have the profile to work in a startup, because
Hmm.
it's a very, very different approach.
It is, yeah.
Sometimes you work until 10 p.m. You
Mhm.
have people start working at 8 a.m. So it's very, very hard for them. and of course things change every day.
Yeah, you have to
uh,
be very flexible
so
working
it's
in a
yeah,
startup.
it's very hard. And one thing that we found out that really helps a lot, it's stock options. People giving
Hmm.
stock options to employees, people feel that they are part of the company,
Hmm.
and that helps a lot. Like I remember that first day we gave stock options, the day after we were already seeing differences,
Okay.
huge improvements. Yeah,
Yeah, so people tend to feel more that they are working for themselves instead of for someone
yeah,
else. So,
yeah.
yeah, I'm also pro that. Great. So, concluding, what would be your key advice or key learning you would like to share with other startup founders?
I think that I don't know, like in terms of hiring, I would say that to be fully transparent in the interview.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes I'm not in the first step of the interview, but sometimes I come into the second or third step, and my role is really to, of course, present the company and the vision, but also to say that and to aware and to say to people and to aware them that it's not going to be easy, because it's not going to be easy, you know.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Unfortunately.
yeah, especially in the beginning. So I just say, look, you're gonna be working a lot of hours. It's gonna be super intensive. So do you really want that? Or do you think you are in the place that you can afford to go into that challenge? And yeah, I think that's important. Just put
Hmm.
everything on the table. Like, look, and also like make the interview make you questions about yourself, about the company, because this is something. This is bi-directional. Like this is not one way stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
um,
Both
yeah,
sides make the decision.
yeah, I think that people that are looking for a job, they really need to interview the company as well.
Hmm.
They need really to. It just sometimes people just make questions in the interview to seem interested.
Hmm.
Oh, I'm very interested about the company, or I'm not that easy to hire, something like that. No, just be really truth about yourself and what you want, because this is a relationship, especially in small companies.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Great, great. So thank you so much, Zhao, for your time and sharing your stories.
thanks a lot.
And thank you to all the listeners. For more podcasts, please visit jobrely.com.